around. But yeah, so in terms of coordination, I guess there are a few fixed topics that we're going to be going through today, and there are some flexible sessions that I think we can kind of basically decide on the spot what we want to discuss about to push forward the definite effort. So namely, the next like 1.5 hour is Devnet Specs. So I think this is one of the flexible topics that we can discuss about. There are some fixed topics after that, which is P2P perf. And then tomorrow morning we have bindings and metrics. That's fixed. But in the afternoon we have the Devnet breakout sessions, which basically we can basically decide on that. And also on the third day we have keygen in the morning and DP2P, and then the breakouts in the afternoon. Some of the objectives I want to kind of get a consensus on today is that for the entire 3 days, I think there are basically three objectives that we should try to complete. First is Devnet Zero is still going on. I think we're trying to aim to be able to demo something by the end of the third day. So that's one of the objectives, is to complete Devnet Zero. The second one is to get the lessons learned so far from developing Devnet Zero, things that we want to improve going to Devnet 1. And then the third objective, of course, is try to push forward Devnet 1 as much as possible. Right. So we know that we want to implement post-quantum signatures, but we haven't actually started talking intensely on what the spec should be like for post-quantum signatures inside the client itself. Right. For example, are we going to go with just like one signatures, or are we actually having different signature types for proposing, attesting, and also like for, let's say, like signing and slashing? Do we actually want to have that in the specs for Devnet 1, or do we want to defer that till later, and then we only have like one signature type for Devnet 1, stuff like that. So what I'm going to propose today is maybe like we should start from maybe discussing about what's the lessons learned from Devnet Zero. Maybe spend maybe just half an hour to discuss about the topics, list out all the problems, all the things we want to discuss about, to make sure that we can actually spend some time to allocate and cover all of them throughout the 3 days. And then after that, maybe after half an hour, 45 minutes, then we can start discussing about Devnet 1 as well, on like the signatures, and what do we need to actually get Devnet 1 up. And then for the rest of the day 2 and day 3, we can try to tackle clearing out all the remaining works for Devnet 0, and then specking out Devnet 1 as much as possible. How does that sound to everyone, or is there any specific things you want to discuss about?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So maybe for the next half an hour to 45 minutes, we can kind of like try to reflect back. I would suggest that maybe we can spend maybe the next 5 minutes on our own, maybe jot down some of the questions, the problems, or some of the suggestions that you want to make going to Devnet 1 that you want to be incorporated to Devnet 1. Spend this first 5 minutes, maybe jot down on your mobile phone, and then we can, actually I'm also gonna be needing a note taker, if anyone can volunteer. Yeah, I'll first do it, if anyone can volunteer to help take note of that.
Can we just get Gemini to do it?
Yeah.
Sometimes it breaks down, so we have to make sure that works.
So I guess it's more of like just tracking, so that we can kind of like have something visually that we can keep track of.
I can just take live notes of the work.
Sorry,
I can take notes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Cool.
Thank you. Just bullet points, and then you can color it.
Okay. Yeah. So let's do that for the next 5 minutes, and then we can start like listing out all the suggestions from you guys.
Maybe we can spend 3 minutes just to get around the table to know.
Introduce. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So introductions. Maybe I'll go first, and then we all can follow. So my name is Anwood. I am from the Dream team. So my background, like I mentioned, is technical, but right now it's more like technical plus coordination. So maybe I'm not that deep into technical, but yeah. Happy to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Mihir, and I'm from the PA2 team. So we're basically developing leanVM, which is the C implementation of lean consensus. And I'm just hoping that we can get some clarity on some of the blockers we're facing with these workshops, and hopefully make progress in future DevNets.
Yeah, I'm Simon. I'm from Corpus Core, building the Colibri client, which is a light type, actually stateless client. So I'm of course, I'm always looking from this perspective, make sure that all we build it also works with light clients later on, even though it's gonna be a little bit early for light clients yet. But so I'm trying to see how I can support me also working the or these kind of options to make sure that Devnet 0 is working as soon as possible.
Hi, I'm Mami. Currently, I'm working at Lita, so more on the post-quantum signatures and the leanVM. But I used to work on the Beacon chain from 2018 to 2023 when it was merged. So I was thinking that I could give some feedback about what worked and what didn't, and how we did the DevNet 5 years ago, 7 years ago now. Yeah.
So what's your name?
Mami.
M-A-M-Y. Okay, yeah, I'm Camille. I'm from Quadrillion team. Yeah, we actually engaged in these efforts by doing some P2P research, yeah, part of that I just presented. And yeah, we also started in August developing our own client in C++ called pq1. We also developing C++ P2P library for this client. So yeah, that's us.
I'm Guillaume. Good luck writing this. And
Have you Telegram? From Telegram.
okay, excellent. Yeah, so I work. I actually don't work, but I'm spending time on the Zim client. Yeah, trying to help with designing the spec, getting the real-time proving stuff going, and yeah.
I'm Thomas from the Ethereum Foundation. I'm working basically on post-quantum things, mostly about snarks and like signature aggregation topic, and also helping about the spec and all of this.
Hi, my name is Wei Jie. I'm a crypto engineer. Before helping out in this project, I was doing stuff in like ZK circuits and some optimizations. Right now, I'm helping Emil on the lead artistic project, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Bing. I'm currently at Northstar, but I've been participating in joining in the Z calls regularly, and hope to continue.
Hi, my name is Jun. I'm from Raycam with O. I have a couple of years background in software engineering and came to the RIM developing the lean consensus client right now. And I'm very glad to see you here and keen to discuss about the steps.
Hello, I'm Sato. I'm from Presumption. I joined like a month ago. I happen to live in Cambridge, so I decided to join.
Hi, I'm Raul. I lead the peer-to-peer networking team at the Ethereum Foundation. I joined 5 months ago, and my work has been mostly L1 focused so far. So I'm just really plugging into Lean. These days, so that bear with me a little bit. I'm still catching up, and I'm here to support all of the peer-to-peer networking efforts. Been chatting a lot with Camille, and expect to do a lot of knowledge transfer from the L1 to influence the future of peer-to-peer networking in Lean.
What he didn't tell you is that it was one of the OG of the Beacon chain P2P protocol.
Cool.
Because it was a collaboration between Protocol Lab and Ethereum Foundation back in 2018.
Yeah, so ask me anything about the P2P. I'll criticize it a lot.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm the technical lead at LIDA, and I'm working on the leading multi-sig and supporting some of the WERP-23 efforts.
Yeah, and I'm Ladislaus. I'm with the EF as well. I have with technical coordination, and lead consensus is one of the topics I support with.
Okay, thanks everyone. Next step, yeah, so like I mentioned, let's spend the next like 5 minutes to think about like, so far with like Devnet Serial, what went well, other things to improve, and I guess like many of us are new here, so I guess maybe for you guys, maybe the questions or suggestions on what you'd like to see in Devnet 1 onwards, in terms of like the actual features or maybe the objectives, what should you actually try to achieve, right? So maybe spend the next 5 minutes and then we'll share and then jot it down. And hopefully we can complete this within like 45 minutes so we can get into the meaty Devnet stuff.
Sorry, so we're thinking about Devnet 0 or what we want to develop?
I think for this session is looking back for the next 45 minutes, look back into what goes well, what needs to be improved, and then we can spend the rest of the next 2 days to talk about the future stuff.
Okay, it's just that we haven't really shipped it yet, so it's hard to look back.
Okay, well.
That was my contribution.
That's the first point. The first thing we should discuss. Why we didn't.
Yeah, okay, sure.
I think I guess for me at least, like I don't have something to look back on.
Okay.
Like maybe something newer, for instance.
Yeah, that's. I guess that's fine. We could yeah. So maybe like 3 more minutes and then we can go through this quickly and then we jump to the future stuff.
He was on the site.
Oh, did he?
For a session. Okay. So I suspect he's not.
Oh, you good. Okay, thank you.
1 minute. Fifteen seconds. Okay, cool. So let's get started. Yeah.
So how do you run a node and how easy or hard is it?
Okay. Cool. Maybe we can do like Q&A then. Okay. How easy is it to run a node? I guess maybe from Ream we can answer that first, right? So basically we have two repos right now. One is our main code base, that's ream/ream. So you can basically there's a Docker file there that you can run it as a Docker. There's command right there. We also have a separate repo. I don't remember the exact name. It's
Local
pq. Local. So with that one there, that's a bash script.
Bash script and
plus
Docker
repo. Yeah. So if you want to run a single client and see the logs and see how it goes, you can use the Ream code base. If you want four client environment inside your local machine, then you can use a local pq to run. The question was that how to run the client.
Yeah. So
For Seam is.
I mean, right. Do you want the command line, or do you want? Are you talking about the what's it called? Lean quick start.
What's the difference there? I guess can you maybe elaborate?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. How do you run the client? Yeah. So how do you run the Zeem client? Well, you build it first of all. So either you use the build command. So it's a bit like Cargo. I don't know if you know Cargo in Rust. Zig has its own build system. So you just say zig build run, and then you pass the subcommand that you want. By default, it starts proving stuff, which is not what the default behavior should be, but this is what it is right now. So you have to say node, and then it will start a node, and you can pass some arguments of where it should connect and things like this. But this is a pretty horrible way to design it, and this is something we have inherited. It's already true of the beacon chain time, or even before there was a beacon chain. Gejinder wrote a script that he already, it's an adaptation to Beam of some tool he already created for the beacon chain, which is called lean quick start. And here you can specify, I want to run Ream, like, n Ream clients, n Zeem clients, n Q-Link clients, and it will either go fetch the Docker images for you, if they exist.
It's coming.
That wasn't warranted, I'm sorry. And yeah, if you want to do some debug on any of the clients, you can also specify in the config, I want this as a binary, and then you pass the path to the binary, and it knows all the options for you and kickstarts. And if it doesn't, it's a bug, and you have to open that issue.
Anyone else wants to
I can share very briefly, but it's basically the same. Yeah, in C++, it's a bit more horrible because we don't have very good package systems. But we already worked in C++ for multiple years, so we use VC package, so hopefully it makes life a bit easier. Once it's built, What's a bit different for us is that we use some dynamic libraries, so we have to pass well, as CLI parameter, like the path to these libraries that we just built. Yeah, it could be a bit inconvenient if you just use binaries, but in Docker it's very simple. We actually hide this, even hide this CLI as part of the run Docker command. Yeah, so, and then we pass things like private key, our listen address that we use. Yeah, we don't currently have a database really because yeah, we were focused on just implementing it to make 3SF working. That should be taken into account, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, it's like that.
So just to clarify, Devnet 0 is already a multi-client testnet, and there are 3 clients or more?
There are 3 clients right now.
Okay.
Right.
And we could add more, just need to add more configurations to the script that can be done.
Yeah.
If you have an extra client, we can.
I don't have a client in NIM, if that's
I
what
wasn't
you're
talking about
asking.
you specifically, but yes. If you have a new client, we can also.
And I think in terms of like new clients, the minimum interface that you need to implement, if there's a new spec in terms of the gossip sub, I think we're just doing gossip sub is the request response required. I don't think so, right? It's only the gossip sub. Yeah, there's probably like only one topic there. Two topics. Oh, right, yeah. And then in terms of running the command line, then you have to consume the validator registry, which is basically the private keys. We need the validator ID because it's a fixed register, a fixed validator set. What else? And the PR ENRs. I think that's probably all that you need to do. Yeah. Okay, so that's the first question, how to run a node. Other suggestions, other questions?
Yeah, a question I have is if we were to use a structured topology, how would that arise in a decentralized system?
Yeah, great question. Who you are asking?
Anyone can answer.
I think we can, so there's a second session up to this one on perf. I think we can touch on that. Yeah, I think it's going to be quite a central topic, honestly. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds
It seems like very peer-to-peer specific.
Yeah. But currently on the Beacon chain, you have those validators that are incentivized to be there for like client sync, and there are 512 of them every time, and we can just make those the aggregator. And because they are incentivized, then they have, and it's a lot of money actually, they will have bigger machines.
Yeah.
And then we can resolve the grid.
To touch a little bit on this, like usually structured topology, what I usually understand from that is you have a deterministic way of routing messages between nodes, which usually requires you to know which nodes are part of the network and to know their endpoints, and that is generally something that we refrain from disclosing, or at least kind of like embedding design choice in the L1, which is something that we can do in Lean today as a shortcut, but in the future, the proposal that I wanted to bring to the table is we have a primitive from the crypto team at ETF that they're kind of like started working on, but we don't really know how to leverage it, but we know it's going to be a useful building block in the future.
So
that's
some kind of secret leader election.
No, so there's a specific, so they created a scheme, and there's actually, it's, the performance characteristics don't actually allow it to be used in a very like repetitive way, but it can be useful peer-to-peer.
Okay.
So basically the notion here is that you're able to prove without disclosing your identity, or without disclosing any details that can further de-anonymize who you are, you can prove to the network that you're actually a validator. Because right now, one of the problems of a peer-to-peer network is that it's entirely permissionless, which means that, surprise, if I start a node right now, beacon node, any beacon node, I'm going to join the peer-to-peer network, and guess what? Validators are going to rely on me to forward messages as well. I'm going to become a fully fledged member of the mesh, and that is a massive problem because you have anybody can start a node, and very frequently this churn because, you know, we, people like us and like hackers, developers, and anybody in the world that wants to try out the tech starts up a node just for some test, right? And boom, you join the network and you're just there for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And during that time, the network has started depending on your routing. So this is something that we want to avoid, that in order to build a high performance broadcast layer like we want to build here, we had to find a solution for it without, and then like kind of like the top of the decision tree becomes, do you want to disclose, are you okay disclosing endpoints, right? And membership and who's running behind each endpoint, which is what permission networks like, for example, Solana do, right? Because they also have optimized infrastructure to deter or to defend against DOS, right? So they can afford to do this, but if you want to allow for permissionless participation in the network, while at the same time concealing who you are and what your endpoints are, so that the network can build a topology that takes you into account, like that's basically where it is. And by the way, as if we should probably touch on this in the next session, but we won't into that. I don't know if this is useful.
I have a question that might be completely irrelevant to this session, but why can't you already do this and prove you're validated? Because you should be able to use your keys to say, look, I own those.
It's essentially what the protocol does today. Like you can de-anonymize 90% of the network today simply by listening for some period of time which nodes, like which nodes are the first ones to attest at a specific point in time where you know that specific validators are supposed to be attesting, and you know the roles of every validator in the network, right? The duty of every validator at every slot. So then you can, if you have penetration in the gossip network enough that you can have good reachability to understand who's the first node that sees a message, that broadcasts a message, or like handles a message, then you can de-anonymize. And like 90% of the network can be de-anonymized in this way. But the important part is that this is not baked or enshrined into the protocol. Because nowhere do you specify in a consensus object what your IP address and ports are, right? So that's kind of like and we don't want to do that either, right? I would say we don't want to do that. It's not a problem. So then one idea here is if you have a proof of validation scheme where you can disclose that you can prove that you're validated without disclosing who you are or anything about you, then you can join let's say an overlay mesh, right? That is used by validators, backed by validators, and then everybody else can still read, but cannot write or cannot influence the outcome, like the propagation there.
Is it like something like ring signature scheme? So you basically sign that you part of some set of validators, for example, but it's not really clear. Or based on your signature, it's not clear who exactly signed.
I can't remember right now the details of the scheme. We could look into it. It's and there's actually an implementation as well. So we can consider integrating it already in lean specs if we want to. It's a ZK based thing.
Yes, we just what we don't want to lose is accountability of validators. So if they sign the message, we should be able to actually understand who exactly did this, so that we can punish them.
Right. So this would be for think of this as being a primitive to use as a transport layer to create like a high performance, like somewhat authenticated link without disclosing who the other party is, right? So if you present a POP to me and I present a POP to you, for example, it can be like pairwise as well, right? So we each know that we're validated, we just don't know who, and therefore I'm going to prioritize what I send to you, and you're going to prioritize what you send to me over everybody else. So that's one way of using this.
Regarding performance, how many peers do you want each node to connect to have like the best distribution of messages?
So one of the things that I would like to see, maybe this group or like a broader group define is, and maybe it's too early, but perhaps we can like signpost some numbers. Is if we have a roadmap for the devnets, and this can unfold, right? So it can be like dot. But for each, I would like to see what the intended network size is, because that will then drive different network topology experimentation to cater to those network sizes. And at the same time, maybe there's like some expected improvement in like signature schemes that will like further reduce the footprint of signatures, and like I think what I would love to see is a matrix of how the numbers and the magnitudes are going to evolve over devnets, because that's, I think, what's ultimately, if you take a very simplistic view here of what the peer-to-peer network is going to be doing, is it's going to be moving bytes around the most efficient way and the most mechanically sympathetic way with the protocol. So we need to create dedicated networking layers, like a dedicated networking stack. Not for Lean, for Ethereum, where I think what we do in Lean is going to influence as well what we bring into the L1.
I think this is a very good start. I think we should keep this like kind of like too slow, whatever we can continue with this. Actually, we just like discussed earlier with Camille informally that I think one of the biggest like moving parts in all this like Lean specs thing is networking, right? I think there's a lot of proposals going on, and there's also like moving parts in terms of like the leanSig and leanVM as well. So I guess like our goal here in the next 3 days is not defining the final version, but at least like come up with like all the candidates that we want to consider mix matching into the next future dev test. So I think this is a good flow.
Right. Maybe just before we turn this into the peer-to-peer session, which is going to happen.
Yeah, we will have this.
I mean, I wouldn't mind saving some time, but I still have a question regarding this session. About Devnet 0.
Yeah.
So we haven't launched it. We have the tools. We have, I don't know how much longer, but 1 hour or something like this?
Yeah, until, Adisal,
1 hour.
1 hour.
1 hour and a half?
Until 3 or?
Is the next.
Yeah, 3 is the next, so okay, 1 hour about. Okay, doesn't matter, it stops when it stops. What I would like to do, honestly, is see if we could, at least, because I think there hasn't really been interrupt. We have, at least, I'm not aware, okay, I was making the joke, I'm not aware of any Docker image for Qlean. I'm not aware of any attempt at running Ream and Zim together. I'd like to make this happen.
Yeah.
So I would like to finish answering everybody's question, and then take whoever is from those teams. And I have a machine running where we could run, and we could try to get Lean. What's it called? Lean Quick Start to run. And if we have this, we find the problems. If we don't find any problem, well, good job. We're done. We go home. But
unlikely.
But otherwise, yeah, we just try to make it happen. I mean, the thing is with this schedule here, I don't see any. Okay, I guess there's tomorrow where we could make it happen. But there's not much time to start debugging. If we find some problems, we have back and forth and things. So the sooner the better.
Do you have tools like if Panda Ops, Kurtosis, or something to try to monitor?
You cannot hold it like that.
No. So what happened is that I'm trying to be polite here.
I have no stake.
So I'm pretty famous among the East Panda Ops team for finding bugs in Kurtosis and hitting every single one of them.
I think we all are.
Okay, well, maybe I think that's what you tell me, but they could tell everybody. That's all right. Anyway, the problem with Kurtosis is that it's exclusively Docker based. If you want to connect to debugger, if you want to do all these things. There are many problems with Kurtosis. And in fact, the recommendation that we write our own tool is coming from pq1-14 from Philip. remember his last name just now, but Philip from Eastman Ops, that we do this because Kurtosis will require them to write their own Genesis generator. Like there's a lot of Go code that needs to be written before, yeah, they don't want to really spend the time in building this until they know we have something workable. So this is why we have this script that we can use. When this is ready, we can go back to them and say, look, we have this config. Please create this Genesis generator. Please create all those things. I mean, Philip has already done some of that work, but yeah, I forgot the reason. Last time we talked about this during a meeting, he said, let's try first without the whole shebang, and then we can streamline this into a Kurtosis config.
What is Kurtosis?
It's your one-stop shop Ethereum network deployment tool.
Yeah. So when you want to build Devnet, it's a great tool because you just write your config with your Docker images and everything, and it will deploy the network for you. So it will create as many RIM clients as you want, as many keys. It will generate the Genesis config for you, everything. It's a specific tool that Eastman Ops maintains, and it's only them who really know how to use it. So that's why if they don't want to help us, because they have a lot of things to do, if they don't want to help us, we're kind of.
So I guess like we already got 2 topics that we can focus on for the next 2 days. One is the P2P designs. The second thing is the 3-client interop. Any other suggestions, other proposals?
Testing.
Spec testing, right?
Testing networking is fun.
Would this be part of the interop thing? Because Guillaume, you mentioned that we could also do spec testing as an interop.
I can touch a word if you want, about this. In fact, right now we have the spec repo.
Yeah.
So inside that we have the primitives and the first element of the spec. Let us say, for example, we are like Poseidon, Koala Bear, and some gross take function so that we can play with most of the primitives. To test that, we have like basic PyTest just to test that the Python works, but for now we don't have like tests that can be consumed by clients like it is done, for example, in the execution spec or consensus spec, where you have this kind of test vector that you can serialize and import into your client in order to test that, and so that we have common test vectors. Why we don't have that for now? Because I didn't have time to do that, and also because I think that we have to have some discussion with the Steel team. I had some with Leo and with Felipe. They propose different ideas, and they have much more context than me to do this kind of stuff, so I will let them cook.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I think that right now they both open some branch and work for a specific file. Then, of course, once the setup is done and once we know how to fix that, I can duplicate for other files and test, but I will let them cook for this part. And maybe I discuss also with Guillaume, who has also a lot of experience with the client in development.
Yeah, one thing we could do is review their branch, what they've done. But unfortunately, it's a team that's not unlike Eastman Ops. They're extremely overwhelmed with a ton of requests on many topics. So on top of that, it's the weekend. They're in a time zone that's extremely incompatible with this one. It's going to be a bit hard to get anything, to achieve any milestone on this.
Yeah.
But I think at least discussing it and providing them with some feedback would be quite useful.
Yeah. Just also raising a quite kind of suggestion from Gajinder as well. Gajinder mentioned that for I think Leo's approach right now is to compare based on the final state root, and I think he disagreed with that. I'm not so sure if Guillaume, you have more context on that?
No,
just for flagging.
I mean, not
We
really.
need to double check, I think, with the PR, because in fact, he submitted an issue on the repo that is a suggestion already suggested for like the beacon chain.
Right.
So there is already a lot of context.
And there's PR. I mean, like the actual implementation PR, because I just saw it just an issue.
Right. An issue, and Felipe opened the PR that he sent to me internally, trying to bootstrap something. Check that.
I mean, just checking the state root is definitely not the whole picture, but it's already a pretty good. I mean, at least you know the transition function executed properly. Then, of course, you need. Like if you want to verify everything that is not related to the transition function, that's going to be missing. But
what I can tell also is that it will probably be different than what we have currently on the beacon chain, because we have the YAML file and all of this. This will probably be replaced by a more Pythonic and pedantic friendly serialization mechanism. Something a bit cleaner. So let's say.
For serialization, JSON is okay. So
Felipe took
because
as the first thing.
When we did the first test of the beacon chain, I insisted to have YAML because we had issue. We wanted to add comments into the tests to explain what was buggy or not, but in the end, we never used it. And YAML is just a pain to implement serialized. The serialized.
You were the one.
Yes, I was the one that that pushed for serialization with comments.
Are you the one who pushed for little ending as well?
There is no reason to use big engine. No reason. Like x86, ARM, CUDA, AMD, everything is little engine.
Don't get triggered. I was just
Except for big engines. If you want to serialize big engines.
Anyway.
Anything else? I guess the purpose of this is just to make sure that everyone knows like what these are probably going to be like their own separate breakouts, it seems like. So I just want to make sure that these are relevant to anyone, right? to everyone. So if there's something that is still missing, you want to discuss about this, but not part of the list here yet, please feel free to mention.
I'd like to revisit the 2 months ago docs. I can post the link in our Telegram channel. So there's a pq Devnet 0 markdown file and the link to.
Oh right, that's that's like right after Beam Day, I think.
Yeah, so 2 months ago, it suddenly uploaded, and there's no update on this Devnet the specification file. So I'd like to suggest that we are kind of lacking a single source the success criteria for the meta specification of current Devnet. So as a single dev, I'm kind of lost in developing this client. So I'm just looking for the lean spec, but what's the goal of the current Devnet is kind of a gray area for me in this September. So I'd like to
I'll just write it a directional plan or something. Yep.
So when we did the beacon chain, we had a common repo called if-client, and we put all the testnet config inside so that it's shared. We didn't put goals, but that could be, I think you can use the leanVM organization to create a testnet repo, and there you put the config and the goal so that everyone has one source of truth.
And I guess like once if we are able to achieve like a control now, then I guess we can start to fix the numbers on the actual targets.
And then the kurtosis configuration. Yes.
Kurtosis configuration. Is that would that be part of it?
No, because kurtosis is not going to work this weekend for sure. It's it really needs a lot of work because it's too different from beacons. They need to replace core components. It'll be difficult.
Is that something that we need to kind of like decide as a whole, or is it more like just splitting the tasks and finish the tasks?
No, it's just us getting enough attention from these kind of ops.
Okay.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but yeah.
Okay. I'll just write this down. Anything else?
Do you have a channel to synchronize and discuss between everyone?
We have like the table.
Yeah, but maybe you should have also a GitHub repo for more long form and.
We have like a PM repo inside the.
Okay.
Yeah.
The documentation.
Yeah. So any kind of like spec work that goes into leanspec inside the same, it's meeting notes and decisions. Those are in the Ethereum/PM.
Okay.
And all the previous meeting notes are there.
Yeah, we have like a general like Telegram group with everyone. We have like a lean spec developer group for just developers who are participating into the spec. Then we have the PM repo, and we have a meeting every Wednesday afternoon.
Okay.
Cool.
But to Jun's point, we don't have like a tracking of like a high level like goals and whether we are achieving them yet. For example, how many like validators are we expecting to run? What's the signature generation verification time that we are trying to achieve? Like that's 2 months ago, but we haven't been revisiting. So that's something that we can also improve there.
So what we did was we had a recap either at the beginning or at the end of the call, saying like always about the DevNet status, so that they have a real. Because otherwise you spend a lot of time talking about spec, what works, what don't, and not about the real implemented stuff.
Any other suggestions? Okay.
Yeah, this if this is for Devnet 0, yeah, otherwise we want something for Devnet 1.
Okay. Should we maybe discuss about that as well?
I mean, I don't know because we need to discuss the peer-to-peer proposal, see what's going wrong in the DevNet, like when we launch the clients and things like this. But when all of that is covered, I guess we will get a much better idea of what we want for DevNet 1. Like, we can decide, oh, this is what we want to work on, and we do it.
Actually, related to that, I wonder, do we have to specify more of the P2P stuff for Devnet 1, or can we actually stick to like what we have right now?
Well, that's why I would like to have this session to answer that question.
Can we use this session to do that, or do we think like we have to wait for like say P2P session first and then we convene to discuss about it too?
Yeah, I think we should have the full peer-to-peer session, see if it's a good enough target. Like, the biggest question I want to know is how long is it going to take to implement? Because if it's if it's a 5-day process, then definitely that should be a target for DevNet 1. If it's a 5-year process, maybe DevNet 2.
Also maybe about signature aggregation, but yeah, it's a long and uncertain process, let us say.
Right.
Or actually, do you know any updates regarding aggregation, like whether like that's potentially possible for DevNet 2, which probably starts around December or January?
No.
TBD.
Maybe, I think like the main thing there is the full recursive proving implementation that could turn out to be a bear or maybe achievable within that time frame.
Yeah, it's very difficult to say because right now we don't have like the full recursion. That means that we are able to aggregate fresh signature together, but we are not able to aggregate the proof for previous aggregation. First, and second, like we don't have like sufficient numbers for now. So yeah, this is RNG process, so this could take a week, as it could take 1 year. Like I hope not.
Would it be worth like trying out aggregation but without recursive aggregation, just a single proof into?
Yeah, I was thinking about this here. Maybe this is enough because if we want to do a test DevNet with a reasonable amount of nodes, maybe we can just aggregate and just don't do recursive aggregation to simplify a bit better.
Oh yeah, there's like the trivial aggregation scheme, which is just string concatenation.
Yeah, but I mean that if we want to simplify, we can just have a reasonable amount of nodes and just do like aggregates just 1,000 signature, for example, and don't do like the other part of the aggregation.
Right, yeah, we could have single layer of aggregation, and if we can't do enough signatures in one shot, potentially we can just, you know, do that several times and then concatenate those proofs, and that could might work.
Aggregation. I want to ask, like, is it worth discussing about that? There was a PR open about rainbow staking. Is it worth discussing about that within the next 3 days? Do we have that?
Maybe let's love to have more context, but I think that the concerned guy will be there like for the CL retreat that's just after. So we will discuss. It still is an open discussion. We don't have the real final proposal, and so there is no final decision.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think any of us can sort of give a like significant amount of input for us to iterate on, and then like even after the workshop next week, like I would suspect it to take like a bunch of more time to even talk about a spec or consider a spec. So probably more on the lower priority for the next 2 3 days.
Yeah, we can definitely think of roles, but we're not going to go all the way to the space.
Maybe
there are a lot of proposals from a lot of people, and so.
Maybe a quick question then. The open PR on rainbow staking, I think it's only like renaming validators into stakers.
Yeah.
What's somewhere? What do we do with that?
Two guys who reach out and who are interested in participating into the thinking reflection about rainbow staking.
Yeah.
And so they want to contribute to think about. They will be there next week at the CL retreat. But for now, this is just a separate branch.
Yeah.
And just work in progress, thinking on that side.
What is rainbow staking?
Rainbow, basically, so right now we only have validators, which is basically proposing blocks and also attesting, right? So it's the same ID, does the same role, right? We want to split that out so that you can be just a staker, can choose a role, so you could only be just proposing a block, or you could just be attesting to blocks, but not proposing, or proposing and not attesting. So Rainbow is basically dividing the roles into multiple.
I think that maybe you have more context.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. It's basically unbundling the validator role as it is. Maybe there's also this, like in addition to what I said, there's also this notion of delegation, like in-protocol delegation, which we may consider. So essentially, like at the end of the day, we may have like includers, like for censorship resistance. We may have attesters of the as lightweight duties, and then proposers as a different role as well. And then also like this additional matrix of like an undelegated or delegated role. So, but yeah, like for now we are not even sure as an Ethereum community if we are supposed to go there. So there's also, which we have to take into account, this at least like some more, let's say, conventionalist notion of like not unbundling roles. So let's say the full node is still able to do, or as the validator, you run a full node and you're basically supposed to continue to do all of the tasks. Like this is obviously, it's also a potential path. Like the question is then, how does it relate to, do we want to scale the network? To which degree do we want to scale the network? So I guess it's the rainbow staking is more or less just one proposal to picture a way and paint a way for us to essentially scale the network at some point.
I think that the next lean call will be dedicated to rainbow staking now.
Oh, yeah?
Like rainbow staking spec, I think, in November.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, maybe. I actually don't know.
The lean call, not the Ethereum call.
The big lean.
Right. Yeah. I think. Yeah. Any final suggestions before? I guess like we can then after this we can split into like smaller breakouts depending on the topics.
Actually, I have a question about this because I was looking at the agenda and apparently the break starts at 2:30. So are we already at the end? Because
Yeah. So what we could do is like end the session like here, I guess, and do the break now, and then start at 3 with a peer-to-peer workshop.
Yeah.
I mean, we started half an hour earlier because so I guess it's now. Is this a good point to finish the discussion, or is there any relevant segue we want to? Relevant part we want to add here.
Maybe one thing is who wants to like if we're going to look at all those topics with Devnet one not being very like done immediately, maybe we want to see who's gonna work on what or so that people feel ownership somehow.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing is done.
Yeah. Makes sense. Do you have other thoughts that we can split? Cool. Yeah, we can
If you want here, we can check like the spec test.
Yeah. Okay.
So split test.
Yeah, you just need to jump to the other one because
Yeah.
lead to the.
No, sure, but we don't have to do it this unit. Yeah.
You also have to work with the Ethereum.
Yeah. So
I guess that requires June and Camille. Right? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, but I mean, I assume the most of the work will be done tomorrow afternoon during the. I mean, I'm definitely gonna try tonight after.
I will send you the branch.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I would say there's a whole time allocated for work together tomorrow. Yeah. So this is probably when this happens. Yeah.
But yeah, just maybe listing down the key persons. So.
Right. So client interrupt. I'm also volunteering.
You can put Guillaume everywhere.
No, he wants to sleep as well.
P2P stuff. I guess that's not all. Sorry, can I
I think it's Raul and me maybe.
I didn't quite catch your name, but I think you were also interested.
Morgan, yeah.
Morgan. I volunteer for Kutos. No, just kidding.
Devnet one, I think we probably, since like we have other cryptographers here, I think we should discuss about the Devnet one.
Yeah, I think for the last two parts, it's kind of optional.
Okay.
Maybe we don't need to define ownership because we can check.
But I guess like the plan is we focus on the Ethereum stuff, getting it done tomorrow, and maybe the third day would be.
Yeah. But I think all session afterwards conflict with crypto.
I don't know.
Can you elaborate?
Because like at the moment the other session is proximity price, and this one is DevNet.
Yeah.
But I think some of the other session will be cryptography and then client implementation, and so he will have to present, for example, so you won't have cryptographers.
Yeah, I mean, the other way we can do is we can, in terms of the clients, we can start thinking about the specs for that one, and then whatever questions we have for the cryptographers, then we can start.
But honestly, the aggregation part, just do your DevNet one with BLS signatures, do the naive aggregation, and we can just make it so that aggregation, the feature aggregation on the crypto side uses almost the same API, so we limit the friction.
Yeah, there will be also a discussion with Benedict, with the other group, for everything related to key generation and all of this. So we can group like XMSS, aggregation, recursion, and in the same place.
BLS wise, do we have to, like, is there something simpler that we potentially would have available in Zig that we could use?
But you can just use Blast, which is in C, and Zig calls C easily.
Okay. Yeah, the thing is with Blast, okay, if it's written in C, I assume it's written in, what kind of C is that? Like, is it cross-platform C?
Yes.
Yeah. Like
it even compiles to IBM S390.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the operating system.
It supports Windows, Mac, Linux, and you can compile it with CLang, GCC, Mingui, and supports ARM, etc.
But can I compile it with basically a freestanding target, to use a Zig term, meaning no OS support?
There is no syscalls at all. So it was written so that it can run into ARM trusted enclave.
Okay.
So it has some not syscalls, but it can query the CPU for capabilities on x86 to choose whether to switch to ADX for some specialized instruction, and for SHA-256 support on ARM. But that's all. That's the only syscalls or CPU-specific calls. But it's even optional.
Yeah, you can turn them off.
Right? You can turn them off?
Yeah, you compile with _blast _portable _, and then you have absolutely no dependencies.
Okay.
Then it also compiles to WASM, for example.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but WASM is okay.
The smaller the set of instructions or the system calls that actually our nodes do, the better. Because if we also plan to use, for example, our nodes for simulation under the shadow, which actually replaces all the system calls with their own, then sometimes shadow just simply doesn't work because, well, it says, I don't support the system calls.
There is no syscalls in Blast. There is not even malloc calls. Because you cannot do malloc inside trusted enclaves.
Okay, I'm just saying that, yeah, we should keep it as simple as possible so that we can simulate easier.
There's no malloc, then it might work. Okay, so I have to compile. Yet another thing to do tonight. Compile Blast.
Definitely, Lodestar already has like Blast bindings, and we support the portable.
Windows?
Lodestar. Yeah.
Lodestar. Yeah, but Lodestar is different. It's just that I assume if I start doing verification inside of ZKVM, I'm gonna have to do that stuff, and that means I need to be able to cross-compile to the ZKVM target that I support.
But why would you do verification of Blast inside ZKVM?
If it's part of the state transition function. No, I don't do the verification of Blast. I mean, technically I would, but I'm not. I'm just I would verify signatures, which is part of the block transition function.
Yes, but if you look into the consensus spec for the Bitcoin chain, the verification is called fast aggregate verify, and it's just a standalone function. And if we replace by the ZKVM from Thomas and Emil, I assume it will be also a function.
Okay. So you mean like a function, like
a freestanding function, and
just a regular function that I could import as a C file.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, then no problem.
Okay, cool. I guess we have to wrap up.
That's a good point.
Yeah, cool. So I guess just to kind of summarize, I think we have 3 important topics for tomorrow, for after this and tomorrow as well. So there's probably going to be discussion on P2P designs and proposals, and then interop and spec tests.
So the P2P conversation is going to happen
well, from now on. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We meet here at 3 p.m. for the P2P workshop.
And then day 3, we talk about Devnet 1 and aggregation.